of descent.
When we close our eyes and drift into the sweet slices of nocturnal bliss, a horizon of vistas open to our mind's eye. It is here that we walk the ever-shifting dreamscape of insanity, beauty, mystery, and at times, horror. Tonight, viewer, I wish to take you on a journey into the most disturbing and creepy nightmares I have gathered from around the web so that you may walk alongside the dreamer and see these hellish night visions be brought to incarnation via multimedia. Find a comfy seat or bed and lay back. Jack in some high-quality audio headphones and drift between the waking and resting worlds while staring into the void. Just beware. Sometimes the void stares back.
I was sitting in front of a temple cross-legged with a little girl in my lap. The world around me was in grayscale. She was a small girl wearing a white dress and had long black hair. Somehow in this dream, I knew she was slowly dying in my arms. The reason why this creeps me out is because I had this dream over and over again. Only every time I would have it, she would get closer and closer to dying. The worst part about it is that I had this horrible feeling the entire time that there was something I could do, but I didn't know how. Eventually, I had the dream where she finally died in my arms, and then the dream stopped. I still feel like I failed her.
The rocking chair. There's an old rocking chair in my room. One night, my eyes fluttered open and I was on my back, with my head turned to the rocking chair. On the chair, there was a woman crying her eyes out, looking me right in the eyes as she pulled out her insides. Her skin was like a vampire. She just kept staring. I tried closing my eyes, and then I felt pressure on my chest. Yep, she was sitting on my chest, ripping her guts out while crying. This went on for a couple seconds before I woke up.
My 3-year-old daughter and I were standing on a dock on a lake. She fell in the lake and sank like a stone. I immediately dived in after her, swimming straight down to try and catch up with her. I remember her looking up at me, reaching for me and trying to scream. I remember seeing the bubbles come out of her mouth towards me. I was swimming downward as fast as I possibly could, while trying to grab her. I got to the point where even if I did catch her, we wouldn't be able to get back to the surface in time. I wasn't going to let her die alone. I kept swimming down. She was sinking away from me faster than I could swim towards her. I watched her drift farther and farther, the image of her growing blurrier in the murky water. Then I woke up. I immediately ran to my daughter's room to check on her.
I was wandering around alone at night in a medium population area. No bad feelings or anything, and occasionally saying hello to people while exploring. Then, I ended up in a deserted courtyard with some old people around, and things started to feel out of place. As I walked across the courtyard, they seemed to multiply and were closing in on me, all chattering questions loudly at me. When they got close, I had 90-year-olds all around me, 5 people deep on all sides. One very strong old man came out of nowhere and grabbed my shoulders, then threw me to the floor. Quick as lightning, he was kneeling on me, pinning my shoulders with his body weight. I couldn't even move or breathe because he was so heavy. The crowd by this point was bloodthirsty. He gripped my head in his hands and with his thumbs, started to push my teeth inwards. He had the grin of a psychopath on his face while all of this was happening. I could feel the pain and pressure building and building until all of my teeth seemed to explode. After that, I woke up in a cold sweat. I was 4 and I was being chased through my elementary school campus by a knife-wielding troll. He was 6 feet tall and had the knife to my mom's throat. He started to laugh maniacally and then slit her throat. After he killed her, he held her head in the air like a trophy. Her decapitated body was twitching on the ground. He dropped her head and started to look at me. I turned around and bolted. I felt the troll's hand grasp my ankle and I woke up. That was nearly 20 years ago. I still think about it more times than I'd like to admit. I was hanging out with my family in the living room when my brother leaves the room saying that he's going to go shave his head with the belt sander in the garage. I don't know why, but it made sense in the dream. A few seconds later, a thin red mist starts coming from the ventilation duct in the ceiling. Shortly after that, blood starts dripping from the vent and starts to soak the ceiling in a direction coming from the garage. Everyone rushes over to the garage, just in time to see my brother, whose head got caught in the belt sander and most of his face sanded off, gets thrown sideways by the force of the sander into the bandsaw, which quickly cut his head and his hand off. His body kept standing, stiffly twitching, as his neck and arm stumps spurted blood into the dust collection system, which had been distributing the gore into the rest of the house's ventilation system. After seeing this, I woke up. I was sitting in a living room with a bunch of hipsters. The room had these old couches and rugs and an old beat-up coffee table. Seems pretty normal, doesn't it? Except it was a morgue. One wall was covered in the compartments they keep the dead people in, except they weren't metal. They were transparent so you could see the dead bodies. The other walls were just concrete. The hipsters and I were just talking normally. There were coffee cups on the table, and one of them was playing with a Rubik's Cube. At random times in the conversation, the drawers in the wall would fly open and dead people with bloody faces would join in on the conversation. The Rubik's Cube guy was trying to fit the cube into one of the coffee cups, with a smile on his face that diminished as he noticed the cube wouldn't fit, similar to a kid playing with geometric toys. He then threw the Rubik's Cube, and it bounced off the table and smacked me in the face. After that, all of them started throwing the coffee cups at me. And once those were all gone, they forced me to pull out all my hair in small tufts. All of the drawers on the wall rushed open once I was done, and the dead people started eating my hair. I was traveling through a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and there was a dark green haze over everything and not much color in the landscape. I was with two people, but didn't know either one of them. As we were exploring, we found a house and decided to enter it. In this house, you could tell that there was once large floor-to-ceiling windows, but now there was just the twisted window framework. In front of the framework, crouched down, was a person with their back facing towards me, looking out the window. I walked up to them because I had a feeling I knew them. I was starting to feel relieved that I found someone I knew, finally. When I went to reach out to this person, everything was in slow-mo. When I touched this person's shoulder, the slow-mo stopped and the person turned around, looking me right in the eye. And instead of having a pupil or iris or even blank eyes like a blind person, the eye was a spider, a big tarantula stuck in the person's eye, with green surrounding it where the whites would be. I flinched and woke up with a yelp, breathing heavily. Only days later did I realize it was my sister. Everyone in my class was in the assembly hall. The principal came out of nowhere and walked to the stage and announced something, then walked out without anyone knowing really what he said. After that, the Rugrats came in through the main door and stood there while we all just stared at them. They then turned a sickly blue and grew to be 8 feet tall. They made a sound that I can't describe, but had the same effect on me as scratching a chalkboard. They then hunted us down, and anytime they touched anyone, they too would grow. They got to everyone as we just panicked and ran around the room. They started with the people I knew the least and worked their way up that list until they got to my best friend. When my best friend was turned, they all stopped and looked at me in the corner. Tommy from the Rugrats started to chase me, and then I woke up. I was in my room a couple nights after I had watched The Ring and saw a shadow passing my window back and forth, over and over again. Not thinking much of it, I rolled over to get into a more comfortable position. After a while, I rolled back over to see the girl from The Ring looking through my belongings, going through each drawer and scanning everything on my desk. After a while of watching the girl going around my room, she just simply left, didn't take anything or look at me. The girl just left. Still terrified but relieved, I roll over and see the girl from The Ring, again, crawling towards me. I laid there frozen and terrified. She jumped at me, then I woke up. I didn't sleep with the lights off for a week. Maybe ignoring all that chainmail wasn't such a good idea.
Thank you for joining us in the gallery tonight. We hope you enjoyed our Nightmare Theater. If you have your own twisted dreams, please share them in the comments below and I may add them to a follow-up video. Until then, sleep tight and may your dreams bring you frights.
The Gallery.